Just a couple of housekeeping comments before we start the student panel. This Essential Elements series is a shared planning experience, and there's a lot of people at West Hills that have contributed to helping us from logistics to event management. And I just want to highlight a couple of them. All of the event management and logistics for this has been handled by our very own Kathy Finster. I made her stand there. Kathy has taken on increased roles in planning this event, and Kathy, on behalf of all of us, thank you. Really do appreciate your commitment to this event. Also, say hi to Carlos Posadas. Carlos is our district web administrator, and he's our go-to guy, been with us each of the 5 Essential Elements series. He makes our speakers look good. Everything is on time with the production pieces. Carlos, thank you for your continuing support. And then also, since the start, have been Denise and Mike Shandroff of AV SLO. They've been with us each of the 5. Thank you, Denise and Mike. Appreciate it. And I would just remind all of you that we do go into post-production after this event, and within 2 or 3 weeks, that's enough time, Mike, not too much pressure there, we'll have a fully post-produced production on our EssentialElementsSeries.com website, including all the PowerPoints, all the videos, all the audio, and we would encourage you to use that as an ongoing resource throughout the year to keep in touch with our Essential Elements series, which really is rooted in an elegantly simple vision, and that's to seek solutions to the challenges facing the Valley. And a key component in responding to identified needs of industry and driving regional economies is workforce training. Workforce training influences business attraction, business retention, and urban and rural economic development. And with an agile, trained workforce, employers are able to compete in today's global marketplace. And as we think about the role of educational providers and educational and training providers, our ultimate mission is to educate a field-ready workforce that can troubleshoot and problem solve. If we fail to do that, there's an impact on retention, attraction, and the competitiveness of the San Joaquin Valley. And so today, for the first time in our Essential Elements series, we're delighted to showcase what we produce. On the stage here are current and former students at West Hills. Each of them will share their perspectives on the future of ag in the Valley. Their stories are sure to be engaging and insightful. And I'm especially pleased to welcome Chris Chaney, instructor of Agriculture Industrial Technologies at West Hills College, Coalinga, to moderate this session. But first to you, Chris, and to the students, thanks for your commitment to us, to this series. Be honest and candid, have some fun. So please welcome Chris Chaney.
Like Stu said, welcome everybody, and welcome panelists. So let's get started. Got a few questions here we're going to talk about. Please answer as you see fit. How does agricultural technology fit in your career plans, or current career, as it were?
Hi everyone, I'm Adrian Jenkins. I'm a current student at West Hills, working on the farm of the future. Right now, ag fits into my future plan as being a way to be more efficient with my decisions. You know, on the farm we do a lot of water management, nutrient management, and we use a lot of sensors to help us recognize those issues in the field. So technology is going to allow me to be able to make more informed decisions about those issues, whether it's water content, whether it's applying certain herbicides at a certain rate. These technologies are going to allow us to recognize these problems before we see them visually. And I'm speaking specifically on the sensors such as the tensometers, and you have the remote sensing, when you have the drones flying over the fields and it's giving you different stresses throughout the field. And if you apply that with variable rate technology, you're able to adjust those rates to those stresses throughout the field or whatever issues you have in the field. So it'll help us also easier comply with all of these regulations, help us be more efficient, use less water per unit of output, help us apply less pesticides in certain areas where we overuse chemicals in certain areas. But that's where I see technology helping me in my future plans, just being better at what it is that I'm going to school for, which is pest control advisor and a crop advisor. But that's where I see technology helping me in the future.
I'm Carrie Birdwell, and I currently work for a company called Rivulous Irrigation. So I spend my days basically selling drip tape to farmers on the Central Coast. And so ag has been a part of my past, it's part of my present, and it will always be a part of my future. And so really technology at this point for me will be in more efficient, cheaper drip tape solutions, basically. Every day farmers ask me for a cheaper tape. They also want one that requires less labor. So if we can create something through technology that will require less labor and cost less money, that's exactly where I would like to be in 5 years.
I'm Bret Mckenzie with Mission Ranches. I come from a little bit different aspect of this industry. I'm from the vegetable side, so a lot of the technologies that we can use it's a little more difficult to use because of our small specialty scale and plus our smaller field size. But technology is basically a tool in our toolbox. We're able to use less inputs to help get a higher return. Whether it's using planters, get higher densities, lower densities, get us to our ideal plant populations, supplying sensors for irrigation, guidance on our tractors to reduce overlap. One of our biggest costs is labor, land, labor, and fuel. So if we can get the labor down by running less passes in fuel, therefore we're making more money. Also in harvesting aids, harvesting costs are going up. Everything's labor-based, or hand labor-based, and there's been a shortage for the last 5 years. So developing these technologies to help us harvest. Then also post-harvest, whether it's disinfectants, people in the labs doing food safety, and then also tracking. So like I said, it's technology's there where we need to be using it, but it's a tool in the toolbox, and how we use it needs to be addressed.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Finster. I work for S&W Seed Company as an agronomist. A lot of the same things that you mentioned with the crop consulting and PCA work, sensors, neutron probes, tensiometers, that type of stuff. Irrigation efficiency would be something that I would look at and want more advances with our shortage in water and restrictions that we're up against. I think harvest would be a big issue with hand-picked products, produce like stone fruit and citrus, and asparagus is a big one. With the rise in labor costs, it's going to be really hard for these growers to make a profit. And so we need to find new technologies and new ways to accommodate them and make their crop profitable.
Okay, thank you guys. Let's move on to the next question. What is your focus on ag tech and why?
First of all, I'm originally from Florida. Agriculture is fairly new to me. I started out as a football player, and I came over here and I transitioned to agriculture. But I haven't seen much farming, but I'm focusing on the precision ag because I see that's where the future of farming is going. Doing everything down to precision, being precise with all of your applications, just being efficient, producing more with less, getting stuff done quicker rates, and that's going to be done through the use of technology, the GPS-driven equipment, all of that stuff, the drone technology, just so, like I said, you can see those issues in the field before you need to see them visually. And that's why I'm focusing on precision ag, because that's going to be the future of agriculture. It's going to have to be used by everyone to meet the demand for agriculture products out there. And preciseness is the only way to get it done, using just the right amounts in the right way.
Will you repeat the question, please?
What is your focus on ag tech and why?
Okay, so my current focus on ag tech is completely surrounded by irrigation. So I started at West Hills about 12 years ago, and I went through their precision ag program sort of as a necessity in order to get into Cal Poly. At Cal Poly, I ended up getting a degree in ag systems management, and I focused on irrigation technology. Between 2009 and today, I've worked as an irrigation designer. I've sold GPS guidance systems and yield monitors. I've also sold multiple different types of drip and micro irrigation products. So my focus today is irrigation, has been in the past on GPS and application control products. And why am I doing that? I love it. I don't think that you can be in ag or in farming with all the regulations and all the restrictions that we currently have and not love it, because you can't. It's too hard. So that's my reason for being focused on ag tech, and that's the ag tech I'm focused on.
What I'm trying to accomplish is replacing the hand labor, the human hand. It's a very hard thing to do, and I guess you could almost say it's near impossible, but nothing's impossible. So as a manager, like one of the big things that we do is our big crops are lettuce. And lettuce is overplanted, partially because of germ, but also it's because the grower owns the product. It's a high value product. Just our land in the Salinas Valley, we're paying upwards of $2,000, $2,500 an acre isn't out of the question. So you have to be able to maximize your ground. So recently everything was thinned by hand, but having the reduced labor, we're having to go through, and they've built machines now that come in there, you're spraying fertilizer or an herbicide. There's pros and cons to both. Obviously the fertilizer does a little bit better job, because if you overspray the next plant, it won't kill it, kind of like an herbicide will. But then we don't want to be overplaying our fertilizers, because they're going to leach into the groundwater eventually, potentially. And then also we're trying just to lower all of our inputs. I mean, there's other ways of doing it. We got our fertilizer, there's yield monitor, there's variable rate, trying to apply less water using different kinds of sensors and pests. And like I work with Carrie, I've not ever actually worked with Carrie, but same thing. We're trying to use throwaway drip tape, because once you start applying more drip, or 7/8 drip tape, or 8 mil drip tape is like the standard in the Salinas Valley. It's a thicker, you can pick it up, reuse it, put it back in the field, use it 7 to 8 times. But the price of labor has gone up so high that we're wanting to use a thinner tape and throw it away at the end. So it's working with manufacturers on trying to make an ideal product that will help us get to the future.
Real quick, Brent, your figure there per acre, that was cash land rent, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So for Fresno County, I grew up out in San Joaquin, and what we look at there is what Brent's talking about for rent is probably 4 to 5 times what the going rate is in our county here. And that's just for land rent, not land purchase.
Right. Well, I ultimately want to be the best that I can, and I think utilizing the technology is going to help me do that. A lot of things that you wouldn't think of are ERP systems, things like QuickBooks and computer software. I think that helps me as an agronomist track everything from the first thing when they lay the tractor in the ground to when the seed or the produce comes into the mill and gets conditioned and then ultimately sold. So I think a lot of color sorters and other processing equipment would be a focus of mine. Also irrigation equipment, sensors, that type of stuff, variable rate sprays we want to have a light footprint on the earth. We want to sustain everything. We want to be sustainable farmers. We do need water. That is critical. We're pushing our limits with breeding new varieties that are drought tolerant, that are salt tolerant, and that type of thing, and that will help us only so much. But I do see those type of irrigation, processing type of equipment kind of my focus going forward.
So now that we've talked a little bit about ag technologies and what you guys, what your focus is on those, how do you think ag technology can benefit farmers?
That's such a broad question. I think ag technology can benefit farmers in a million different ways. Really, it just depends on how they choose to use it. In my experience with things like GPS guidance systems or application control products, California doesn't tend to be the most progressive state when it comes to adopting those technologies. So I think that what will be required is maybe a little bit more education or a little bit more of a push to farmers to move in that direction. You know, it's tough. It's very, very simple to use a yield monitor on corn, for example. But how do you then use that same yield monitor on processing tomatoes or almonds? It's next to impossible. So it's a much harder market in California to be involved in those types of technologies. When you switch gears and move into the irrigation side, I would say it's fairly similar. You know, there aren't as many farmers as you would think using, you know, soil moisture monitoring systems or automated irrigation products. So there are a million ways that they could benefit from it, and there are also a million ways that they're not taking advantage of it.
How can ag technology benefit farmers?
Like I said earlier, it is just help with just management. It take much of the decision making away from, you know, the person that have to focus on other decisions. You know, the manager won't have to remember, okay, I need to apply this amount of water, or I need to apply nutrients to this area, or pesticides need to be applied here. Technology record all of this information, you know, the water content, and it'll let you know when you need to apply that water. If you couple that technology with all the weather stations that we have throughout California, if you apply that technology with the sensors and stuff like that, it'll make the decision easier on the manager. And as a result, that'll make the farm more profitable. It'll reduce environmental impacts, and it'll also just produce more food, you know, for the people, which is the ultimate goal of farming, obviously. But that's it. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think any good farmer is a micromanager. And so it's a very good tool to keep a watchful eye. You know, it's right on their iPad, it's on their phone. There's a lot of technologies that can benefit them in being more efficient. And I think those are qualities that they can benefit from. Like Carrie was kind of getting at, is it feasible? Is it readily available at a cost that's going to benefit them? At the end of the day, we want to make money. We need to stay in business. So I think as time goes on, I think these things are going to become cheaper, and they're going to become more the norm on a farm. And at that time, we're going to see a big shift. I think we're going to see the face of agriculture change drastically. You know, there's cars that can drive themselves fully without anyone behind the seat now. There's tractors that can do that. Case IH just came out with some models, prototypes that can do that. They can do almost any, go over fields with almost any implement, sprayers, tillage, you know, the whole 9 yards. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that happen, but it's so expensive now that the normal farmer, especially the little guy, can't grasp it and purchase it and make it work for them. So I think in the future we're going to see a lot of that, and that's definitely something that's going to be up and coming and be a big part of our future as farmers in the ag industry.
I think what's been the biggest challenge in facing these technologies is also farmers have always had the mindset of, oh, that's what my dad did, that's what my uncle did, that's what my great-granddad did it. So it's our generation that's coming in and we're learning all these new, whether it be variable rate, yield monitors, planters. And it's like, hey, why don't we grab that? It's like, oh, well, this is suiting us just fine. So it's trying to break in and say, hey, this can actually save us money. Most farms work on a 5% margin. So when you're throwing an extra $20,000 to $50,000 on items, they're saying, well, hey, that's getting into our profit line, and we got to be able to be sustainable. Well, farmers are the original sustainers. We always build and adapt to our circumstances, and we've been doing that. And the precision technology has helped us become more sustainable because we're able to have less inputs and achieve higher yields, which is what being in business is all about. There also becomes a point too, I think, where we're going to become so reliant upon this technology. If it ever goes down, it's like, what are we going to do? So I think we also need to make sure that technology is our friend and we use it to our highest abilities, but also we need to watch how we rely on it because, you look at these autonomous tracks, like what happens if somebody hacks into your system? So there's also other industries that I think that are going to come in and benefit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that you need to double check everything. There are soil moisture sensors out in your field, but you also need to go and grab your soil probe and probe the ground and do it the old-fashioned way also. You need to kind of utilize both and to your best ability, and I think that there's definitely benefits, but you need to also make everything profitable and work for you. And every situation, every farmer has a different situation and it has a different outlook on what they want for their yields and that type of thing too. So.
Thanks, guys. What do you see as the most critical unaddressed ag tech CTE issue?
I think that as a whole, this is a hands-on thing that we're missing. It feels like we go to college and we learn all these big ideas about how to do a job, and then you sort of leave college and you don't actually have any clue how to get it done. So instead of really focusing on, hey, look at this really cool technology and the idea behind this cool technology and how it works in the background, we need people who know how to use it in the forefront and actually be able to get their hands dirty or their boots dirty and actually use this product. And I say boots dirty loosely, you don't get your boots dirty working a computer program, but you do need to know how to use it, how to integrate it into maybe what a farmer's already using, and be able to be an asset when you get out of school, as opposed to being someone who just costs money for 2 years before you can actually get anything done.
Well, like I said earlier, I think a big focus should be hand-picked produce, having a different option for harvesting. With the increase in rates, in California, our labor rates are going to go up to $15. People like this gentleman in the lettuce business and other businesses that are sensitive and you have a lot of hand labor or organic farmers, it's going to be very tough to stay in business. They're going to have to adapt, and I think the companies in abroad understand that, and we're going to see those new technologies popping up left and right because something has to give. We're getting, everything is going up in price because they're able to produce it in South America for a lot cheaper, and their labor is a lot cheaper down there, like the asparagus market. It's getting harder and harder, like I mentioned. And I think if we had a harvester like this, it would take that out of the equation. It would kind of give us an even playing field, if you would.
I think what we need to do is start going into universities and talking to them, because people think, oh, agriculture, you're the guy with the bib overalls on and you have this piece of straw in your mouth and you drive that old dirty pickup to work every day. But there's so many different aspects. I mean, if you look up here on our panel, just what we're all doing is differently. But in our salad plant, we're using robotics to grab the packages that are coming off the line and put them in a box. It's like, okay, you're involved in the company the guy that did that has no idea. He's building the robot, but it's there to serve the agriculture industry. There's so many facets that I think that are still undiscovered yet that mainstream could be working on. I mean, Google's trying to get back into this. There's a Forbes has a big ag summit now every year in Salinas, and we're trying to develop harvesting as I think that's what's going to be the next. You can never replace the human hand, but you can get close. At least if we can have, say, a machine that comes in, it can pick the asparagus, and then the guy can bunch it by hand. Little things like this are going to help out our industry drastically. There's already some aids there to help us out, but we need help from these high-tech companies to come in to get us to the next step. We're all specialists. Carrie's a specialist in irrigation. I'm a specialist in farmer. He's an agronomist. But we all need to figure out a way to come together and solve all of our issues together.
I think Brent brings up a good point there, and a little piece of ag history. Don talked a little bit about tomatoes today, so did the gentleman from Olin, and I worked in the processing tomato industry for a little while, and it was a partnership at UC Davis between the crop scientists and the ag engineers that saved the tomato industry in California. So these things that Brent's talking about are possible, and we've seen examples of it throughout history as well. Okay, two of the most critical ag needs for farmers are system integration and software customization. System integration could involve coordinating with a drone that sees plant stress and to apply appropriate input such as water, fertilizer, or pesticide. Software customization can mean adapting an irrigation program to a specific crop or specific soil at a specific time. Are system integration and software customization potential ag tech careers?
The simple answer is yes. I guess it's hard to know exactly how to get there. Unfortunately, I know what the next question is too, so I'm going to have to try to figure out how to answer this one without spoiling that one. This particular question, I think, with the software and the sort of higher tech end, I think that it's going to be really hard for a person with vocational education or maybe a 2-year AA degree to get into this particular market. That's not to say that it's not going to be something that you can get into or a potential ag career, but I also don't think that it's necessarily one that will have a huge upswing of people hiring. For example, Rivulus, we have 13 manufacturing plants worldwide. We have one guy who works on our technology side, one guy, and we bought an entire company to launch a new irrigation scheduling program, and we have one person. So I just don't foresee it being something that is going to all of a sudden be hiring, hundreds of students coming out of, especially a vocational education program.
I think system integration and what was the other one?
Software customization.
I think they go hand in hand because we want everything to be streamlined from, like I said, from the beginning of your preparation to the end, tracking things, your inventory, that type of thing. And then customization, there's so many variables on every farm and every piece of ground. And so you need to be able to customize your software to adapt to all the different challenges you're going to be brought to, that you're going to encounter. And so I don't know if I answered that right, but that's just kind of how I took it. But I think that they're going to work hand in hand. I think that it's going to be the future, and it's already here as far as tracking systems and software that you can customize. I think it's going to get easier to where the grower can customize it himself instead of having a software person doing that. And so I think there's careers in it. I think that developers and engineers and technicians and maintenance personnel are going to be involved in this, yes.
One more time. The last part.
Are system integration and software customization potential ag tech careers?
The answer has to be yes, like everybody else has said. What's been nice is most of the softwares that you can use are Excel based. So I think you're really able to get somebody that may not be as high of an education level in computers and be able to start understanding these programs. And the other nice thing is it's so easy now. You can find apps for everything. Recently, we monitor. I come from a larger company, so we have inventories. We're doing monthly fuel, diesel, parts, everything we have on hand, the fertilizer. And we actually have an app now that we can do it all. So there's not a lady sitting there manually inputting everything in, and I get to upload it right into our Excel, into our database, so then anybody can hop on the server and see it. I have some more, I'll have to come back to it later.
Okay.
Everyone said yes, it is. Career opportunities in it. But I see an issue with interpreting this data. There's gonna have to be someone that can, use this technology and then be able to interpret it, to be able to integrate it into one system, because all of these different sensors are giving you different values and different readings, so it's going to be a challenge trying to find a certain individual that can read all of the data that's coming from all of the sensors and then integrating it into valuable information that farmers can use, But there's definitely a career in it, but I just don't see it as user-friendly right now. It's a difficult technology. I know we use the drones. I know we use the sensors, and we spend a lot of time trying to interpret that information. And it's challenging. It's not impossible, but it's challenging. And trying to create the students that can use this material is going to be the challenge with creating job opportunities around it. I don't think the job itself, creating jobs around this material is going to be the issue. It's just going to be trying to get the individuals to understand all of the data that's being created and then making it useful.
All right, I think we're at the question these guys have been waiting for. We've kind of danced around it a little bit, and it's been brought up a lot today, but there's a perennial shortage of farm labor. Mechanization is now arriving in the fields to overcome this. Is there a future in ag tech hardware operations and maintenance?
Yes. So this one for me, I think is the better question maybe for, I don't know, the West Hills College market. I don't know exactly how we're framing this room. As far as community college teaching, I think that the mechanical hands-on side is significantly more effective, and honestly, it's a sexier career to an 18-year-old boy in particular who wants to only go to 2 years of college. So I think that this is where the money's at. This is where you can get a lot of people in, young people that'll be interested, and then also there's a shortage of people who actually have real mechanical hands-on knowledge to hire. I've hired at multiple different companies, and just to be able to find a GPS technician, for example, someone who has any type of ag background with maybe just slight amount of mechanical or technical knowledge is incredibly difficult. It's the same on the irrigation side. Whether we're hiring, someone who's going to do our technical support for, filters, for example, or we're hiring, a district sales manager, it's really difficult to find someone who has hands-on ag knowledge and knows anything about any type of basic engineering or mechanics. And realistically, when you're going through mechanics, whether you're talking about the hydraulics on a tractor or the hydraulics going through an irrigation pipe, it's the same. So we just need someone who has that type of knowledge and who can learn those types of skills.
I think one of our biggest challenges is actually just find somebody able to do a job in general, just to show up on time and be there, not just hold the broom. But there's a huge shortage for all facets, I believe. I mean, I think the only part of our business that we don't really lack in is marketing. It seems that all the universities just keep throwing out people that are interested in marketing. But when you go by any place, it's always looking for help wanted. We can teach the people to do the job, but first you have to have somebody that's there willing to. But like technicians, I mean, we can't use the word mechanics anymore. They're technicians. It's like, that's one industry. My cousin's a technician for Case New Holland. He's making over $100,000 a year. Never went to work at college, but he sat there and became mechanical and turned wrenches and went to school and learned how to use a laptop and how to diagnose tractors, and he's been very successful at it. I think that we put so much of an emphasis towards, you have to go to college, you have to get a degree, but the basics aren't there. Like, just somebody knows how to weld. How many people in this room can weld? Anybody? Actually, I'm pretty surprised at that number. Like Mike Rowe says, we need to work smarter and harder. And I think that in our education system, not everybody is meant to go be a computer engineer. There's also people that need to be mechanics. There's also people, that need to be hydrologists. Or there's all these jobs that aren't getting filled because we're putting them on a pedestal that they have to be up here. But being a plumber is also a great thing to do for a living. And, and I'm not... I know. There's just a couple other things I have to say. Trying to think how to say it. Andrew, you want to say something?
Well, I think that, like I said, there's going to be a lot of changes coming, and I think there are going to be a lot of mechanical and technical jobs for these different new technologies. It might be hard to see and think of it right now, but I think it's coming, and it's coming fast. Look how fast everything's evolved over these short years. 10 years ago, farming was a totally different game, and definitely 15 years ago. So I think that we're going to see a lot of these technologies coming on board. I think that the mechanical side of it is, a good farm, you have to have a good mechanic. If you need a manager and you need a mechanic, and usually the mechanic can go out and drive the tractor too, so that's a benefit. But you definitely need a good mechanic. You need a good welder. You need somebody that's savvy in those aspects. So I think even if technology doesn't advance, which I don't see it going backwards, I see it going forward, I think we're going to have a lot of job opportunities for those type of individuals that you mentioned.
The only thing I think that's guaranteed in farming, honestly, is that something's going to break. So you have to have someone who can fix things. And there just aren't enough of those people.
Okay, guys, so this is our last question in closing. You have a sister or brother in 9th grade. What advice would you give them on an ag tech career?
I'll tell them to be a water lawyer before I think I tell them to go into ag technology, but that's another subject. I think engineering is the way it's going. I mean, we all have came to a consensus that there's not enough engineers and there's not enough people in the field working on things. California is so diverse in our specialty crops that we need to make machines, and that's where it has to go. There's no other way. When you look at Mexico, we farm in Mexico, we're having to bring people in from Guatemala and Venezuela to work at our ranches in Mexico to then bring them into the United States to work. That's not going to last for so long. When you're down in central Mexico, the big spots, Guanajuato, you're driving by and you're seeing Ford, Chevy, Dodge, John Deere, Case, BMW. They all have manufacturing plants there, and their manufacturing plants are blowing ours out of the water. So we need to be able to get in there and get this technology and have it in the field to be able to survive, because labor is getting tighter, and we have to have people there to engineer it, manage it, and work on it.
It's funny that they asked this question because I actually do have a sister in the 8th grade. And we own a cattle ranch here in Coalinga, and so we have this big ag background, and there aren't a lot of people who do. And so for her and for myself, it was an easy choice to go into ag. But for a general ninth grader, I think what I would say is look at it. Look at ag. It's not all about like what Brent said, overalls and hay hanging out of your mouth. There's a lot of money in ag, and there's a lot of money in ag technology. And even though maybe it seems really confusing or tough to understand exactly what we're saying when we say, hey, we realize you're in ninth grade, or even move forward and say, hey, you're 18 years old, what box are you going to check on your college application, or are you going to go to community college, or are you not going to go to college at all? I think you just have to say, look, ag is a good place to be. It makes me happy almost every day. And if you can get, I think, 75% happy in the career that you pick, that you made the right choice.
I would tell them to start as soon as possible. I love ag, just being around it and being around the people that I'm around. I love being around it, but there's so many aspects to ag, and the sooner you get in it, the sooner you start learning just the different areas, and it'll be easier for you to find your niche. I've been in it for the last year and a half, and I still haven't found a specific area where I want to work, because I just love doing the math part of it. I love working out on the field, driving those tractors and stuff. I love taking orders from my manager. Not really. But I would just tell them to start as soon as possible. Oh, yeah. I got my QAL last week applying pesticides, but thank you. But I would tell them to start as soon as possible. Get into all of the organizations that you all offer. I knew nothing about the 4-H. I knew nothing about Farmer. What's the other organization? FFA. Yeah, Future Farmer. I didn't know about that. But I would tell them just join those organizations. There's plenty of opportunity in farming. It's always going to be around, and it's a great field. And if you're an outdoors person like me, it'd be a great fit for that type of personality. But that's what I would tell them: just start as soon as possible, get involved.
I wanted to say one last thing. Actually, too, fun fact of the day: the FFA is actually the largest youth organization in the United States. About 600,000 people in it. And I think that you could also tell your sibling to stay in it, because it's unfathomable how fast the precision ag movement has came. If you would have told somebody probably 20 years ago, well, there's going to be tractors, driven by satellite autonomously, they said, yeah, you're crazy, go smoke some more. But you look at it now, and it's like we live it every day, no matter how low, how unadapted the smallest farmer is to ag technology. In some way, shape, or form, he is using it to the person that's, has fully automated drip systems. It's part of our everyday life, and it's only becoming more and more and more available to us. And I'll pass it on to Andrew now.
What I would do is I would do exactly what West Hills has done. They go out to the industry, they reach out, they keep their ears on the road, they're listening, they're looking, they're trying to find new ideas. And that's what I would tell them. Stay current and understand trends. That type of thing is really going to help young people find their niche, and hopefully they find it sooner than later. I didn't come into farming as a career path until a little bit later in life, but I grew up on a farm and a ranch, and so I knew it was passionate to me. I just didn't know exactly what aspect of agriculture I wanted to go in. I knew I wanted to be in agriculture, but I kept my ears and my eyes open, and I threw it around with people in the industry, and I came to wanting to be a PCA, a crop consultant, that type of work as an agronomist, and I'm very happy with what I did. That's pretty much what I would tell them, is also find something that they're passionate about. And farming is not easy. It's long hours. We get up early, we go home late, we're on the phone until wee hours of the night. There are stresses involved. It's a gamble out there, and so you have to do what you're passionate about, but at the same time you need to keep your eyes and ears open and understand what's up and coming, what's going to be hot, and what's going to be a good opportunity to make a good living for you and your family.
Thank you, guys.
Chris, thank you very much. How about a hand for Chris? Wonderful job moderating. Outstanding work. And how about those students, huh? That was great. Andrew, Brent, Adrian, and Carrie, thank you. What a nice bookend with Alex Avalos this morning, and so appreciate your comments. You'll also have a chance to see where they hone their skills. Later tonight, we are at our Farm of the Future with a hosted reception. We have complimentary shuttle bus that will take us over there. It'll be right out front. You'll hear a little more about that once we end our last session on actions for 2016-2017. But there'll be in-class demonstrations, lots of opportunities to engage our faculty and our students. So I invite you to join us for that. So we'll take a little short break and we'll be back with our third panel here in a few minutes. Thanks again.